I'm Tommy Moore from the Bartitsu Lab, and in this video I'm going to share a little maxim with you, and that maxim is 2 is 1 and 1 is none. And it's a really important maxim to learn whether you're looking at self-defense, self-protection, or indeed if you're looking at things like survivalism, prepping and other bits and pieces too. It's a relatively good universal fail-safe maxim. And it's essentially built on Sod's Law. Sod's Law is that whatever you do, you've got a good chance of it just going absolutely tits up. It's fuck all you can do about it. You can reduce the likelihood, but you've always got to assume that bad stuff and mistakes can and will happen. So we look at this from a combatives point of view here. So the notion being that 2 is 1 and 1 is none. So if I'm using the fence and I'm trying to de-escalate, I've decided to make the first move. I've decided to preempt. Right? A lot of systems will go through the motions, they'll de-escalate, they'll deter, they'll use their hands, whatever, then whoosh! They'll fire something. Nice and dandy. Lovely, lovely stuff. The problem is that if you apply 2 is 1 and 1 is none, then if I fire that first shot, I'm likely to be scared and afraid, and it's likely to fuck up. Because you've got to think of this from the perspective of a normal person. If you are a grizzled bouncer, if you're a grizzled soldier, police officer, criminal, whatever the fuck. If you're one of those people, yes, you will have fear, but your fear will be less. Your concern will be less. Your self-belief will be higher in pulling off those techniques. If you're Dave that worked behind the counter at PC World, you're not going to have any of those benefits. You're not going to have any of those attributes. So your margin for error is going to be much higher because you, in that situation of conflict that you're not really used to, apart from the classes you might go to once a week, perhaps, if you're lucky, but probably not. For you, you're going to be sweating like a paedophile in a nursery. You are going to be shitting out your arsehole. You are going to be scared, sweaty, nervous, afraid. Therefore, your timing, your speed, your power, your technique will all start to diminish. They will all start to fail you under the stress and duress of that fear. So you've got to build in an insurance policy, a normal person insurance policy, to make sure that even if my first preemptive shot goes to shit, I've got other stuff I can do. And that's where the notion of 2 is 1 and 1 is none is very important. To get you out of the habit, once you've developed the tool of being able to go from fence to smash, once you've nailed that, and it's an important skill to nail, you've got to understand that any one gap in the onslaught provides him an opportunity to continue and provides me an opportunity to be interrupted. If there is any gap between strike 1 and grab 2, if there is any gap between strike 1 and strike 2, the bigger that gap is, the more likely it is that if I fucked up strike 1, I cannot then deliver strike 2 or grab 2. I cannot do it. I have not built in a sufficient failsafe. So it's important when we look at combatives to go back to things like boxing. Boxing is very, very dear to me. I love boxing. Little plug, if you're interested and you want to see me fight, August 7th, it will be on Fight World TV. It'll be one of the Sky channels. Just message me on Facebook and I'll sort you out with a link. But, in any case, punches and bunches are very important because, again, they're a fail-safe. Very few people, unless you're phenomenal, will land a 3, 4, 5, 6 hit combination. But you're throwing 3, 4, 5, 6, knowing that you're probably going to hit 2, 4, 6. You're going to hit and be successful on just a small portion of those techniques. And it's true to the ring as it is to real life. So you need to build in fail safes. Volume, frequency, pressure, all of these things mean that you're applying 2 is 1 and 1 is none because you are filling the gap. You are always filling the gap. So let's look at this from a practical point of view. You might go from fence to palm strike, whatever. The technique really doesn't matter for that. It's just based on whatever flavour of fighting you're really into. But let's say you go from fence, de-escalate, blah, 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 smash, and you hit that first shot. You need as fewer beats as possible between this and the next thing, because if we're assuming you're Dave that works at PC World, you'll have hit just too low or just too high, so you'll have smashed his nose in, but you will not have knocked him out. Just a bit to the left under the eye socket, or just a bit to the right under the eye socket. He might have flinched back and might not have hit him at all. So I need enough insurance policy to make up for the fact that if that's gone tits, something else is coming rapidly down the pipe that will fulfill the job that this was meant to do. So one, making sure that the gap between our two strikes is as short as possible. So for me, that might mean as you're throwing your first chin jab out there, that you're traveling your rear hand with you, like so. So it's already on the way to fulfill the job that this first hand could have done. So if you break that down into slow time, as that hand hits, this hand is already about to smash into him on a half beat. I've always got something coming in. As that starts to launch, even if that hits, I get a solid 1-2. And if it doesn't hit, it's close enough in time that I've built in a fail-safe. So I'm always throwing 2 is 1 and 1 is none. If I land 2, the gods are on my side, and that's great. Boom, so I'm launching both to fire this in. Assuming, and I'm neutering my first one to assume that I've fucked up. That I have fucked up, too short, too close, too left, too right. He's too aware, my targeting's off, whatever. Being able to throw in bunches is really, 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 really important. Let's say from another example, I'm going to go with a forearm blow. So I'm going to crash him, bang, with my forearm. Boom! And I love this shot. But let's assume that I fucked this up. I need the fail-safe. If this is fucked up, I immediately know to come into a grab. So I can grab a bit of ear, bit of hair, bit of eye socket, rip it out, do something else. But technically, even with one hand, I've gone for 2 techniques. A ballistic hit, but also a wrap, allowing me to do other stuff, to grab, to maul, take an eyeball, take a lump of hair, take an ear, turn it, feed him something. So again, 2 is 1 and 1 is none. So I'm always throwing this in anticipation that if I don't quite clunk him with the forearm, or if he steps a bit too close, I'm immediately in a position to rip, do something else. So every strike I do, or every combination I do, has to have some degree of fail-safe in there, assuming its first and primary intention, or first and primary iteration, has gone to shit. Okay? It's very, very important to make sure that you can flow these things in bunches. Attacks are always best done in compound. So for example, I might decide to throw 2 edge of hand blows, because sod's law being that if I go for the 1, what if he's clocked it early and he covers? So I've gone boom, but instead of hitting his neck, I've hit his arms because he's covered, he's clocked me. So I've got to think 2 is 1, 1 is none. So I'll throw 2 of these. Now it may be that he's covered the first one with his arms. The second one will compress his arms into him a little bit, allowing me then to send a third down the pipe. So again, I've used multiple attacks and combinations to overcome a potential failure or a potential defense on his part. So building in as often as possible 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 flows or techniques into any one sequence, because odds are at least a third or a half of them will go a bit wrong for you by his skill or by your misfortune, or by a mixture of those 2 things. It's very important to keep attacking, keep flowing, keep assaulting his senses. You know, it may well be that as you grip, let's say you're taking a grip in advance to strike, to reduce the chance of anything going wrong for you, to make it 2 is 1, I might have gripped and I'm going to hammer fist. But just to give myself a bit of surety, I might also spit in his face. So I might gripped his clothing, BAM! So I know that I've built myself some insurance. I've got him unbalanced, I've got him confused, I've delivered one type of assault here into his face to get some type of reaction as I'm doing this. I'm going to get something. If he ducks his head and I fuck my hammer fist up, or I miss, I've at least got some degree of flinch, some degree of movement. I've put 2 assaults in the package of 1 assault. So it's very important to make sure you are building multiple techniques into any sequence, and to never just rely on one game-ending technique, or having too much of a gap between assault 1 and assault 2. So if you're in a system that potentially goes hit, grab, smash, making sure that the timing between hit, grab and smash is as tight and as close as possible, in the same way that a jab, cross, hook, they're all very, very close to each other. Very few, if any, beats between them. So your hit, 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 fewer beats as possible. Any beat, any gap in the middle means that if anything fucked up for you, that will compound, that will get worse. Any gap gives him opportunity to succeed and me opportunity to fail. So reduce the gaps down. 2 is 1 and 1 is none. So if you're thinking of preempting doubles at least. Preempting doubles. Move with it. Whether it's alternate hands or the same hand, as fewer beats as possible. And again, the physical techniques in this video are much by the by. It's about reducing the gaps between them and making sure that you understand that everything can, might and probably will fail for a normal human being. So understand that whilst your prize winning palm strike here might be brilliant in drills, in sparring, in the dojo, whatever, odds are in real life you will completely cunt it up and end up missing, doing something wrong. So you need the ability to fill that gap very, very, very rapidly. 2 is 1, 1 is none, and that applies to everything. If you carry tourniquets, if you carry first aid. Now let's say you're in a car crash and you've only got the one tourniquet, but in that car is you and your missus, or you and your child. Yep. There's always going to be some inconvenience, some problem, something that gets in your way. So if you can double up your resources, whether it's in striking, whether it's in grappling flows, whether it's in medicines, supplies, first aid materials, always make sure you oversupply to the situation. Where one punch might do, throw 2, preferably 4. Make sure that you always build in that overkill, that fail safe, because odds are elements will fail. As I mentioned, there's a reason why boxers flow in flurries, but not every punch will land, not at all. So make sure you reduce the gaps, you increase the frequency, and in that way you can keep yourself safe against Sod's Law. So if you're Dave from PC World, good luck, throw in punches, reduce the gaps, you'll be just fine.